Brian's not available, so he's landed me in it. So I would appreciate your patience and that experienced. So I'll hand you over to our director to read the summons, notice of summons.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Derry Road, Strabane, on Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023 at 4 p.m.
Just read the broadcasting statement.
Sorry.
Ask Karen to do the attendance.
Alderman Guy, Alderman McMorris, Councillor Jason Barr, Councillor Lillian Barr, Councillor Boggs, Councillor Deeney, Councillor Devine, Councillor Donnelly,
And shot.
Councillor Duffy,
And Shaw.
and Councillor Alex Duffy.
And Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Hutton, Councillor McDade, Councillor Tierney, his apologies, Councillor Unelis. Thank you.
Karen. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the Chamber, Strabane, or in attendance remotely, that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. If any member has declarations, they can make it now or at the relevant time. Councillor Boggs.
Chair, just to make a declaration on item 11, Holy Cross College in Strabane is one of the benefactors of some of the funding, and I'm a staff member at Holy Cross College.
Thanks, Councillor Boggs. Councillor Deeney.
Same as Councillor Boggs, but to call me Mr. Boggs. I'm also a member of staff on Holy Cross College.
Thanks, Councillor Deeney. Councillor Devine.
Just to say that I am on the management committee of Advice Northwest, which is referenced in the item 14. And in relation to item 11, one of the projects there talks about nutrition services, and I provide those services. We just want to highlight that conflict of interest as well.
Very good, Councillor Devine. Councillor Duffy.
Board member and Advice NI.
Councillor Hutton.
Just item 17 there, Chair, the active citizenship. I work in the Bogside Brandywell Health Forum, who are a beneficiary of that fund.
Very good. Alderman Hussey.
Chair, I'm not a member of committee, but when it does come up, agenda item 9, I'm a member of the organisation that organises those relief celebrations, the Apprentice Boys. And with regard to item 11, a member of Derrick Local Community Growth Partnership Board. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Hussey. I may declare an interest to also on the Board of Advice Northwest. I'd like to welcome to the Chamber today's deputation. It is Roisin McLaughlin, Manager of Northwest Community Network, and Marie Dunn, Director, Resilio, on the topic of to activate hope in our district. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chair, very much for inviting us along. So you've already introduced us, but it was just to sort of give a bit of a background. We recently did a presentation to the Strategic Growth Partnership about our plans, about Hope events and the plans that we have, and they endorsed it. And we also met with the mayor this morning, and we also met with Sandra as well when she was mayor to endorse our plans. So we're planning Hope events and to create Derry and Strabane as a Hope district. So I'm going to hand over to Mari now, who's going to take us through some slides.
Have we some of the slides up? Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. First of all, a sincere thank you for the kind invitation here today. I think it's a privilege to be here and to share our vision with you. I set up Resilio after working for 40 years in the field of mental health, and particularly around the area of suicide prevention, because I really believe that our health is the most important thing and mental health has got to be a #1 priority. Over the last couple of years, I've set up Resilio with a mission to actually look at the strongest protective factors that we have for our mental health. And what we've discovered through the research and the evidence to say hope is a teachable skill. And it's the most strongest protective factor that we can actually introduce into individuals, communities and organisations today. So we're delighted to be here today to share some of that with you and to ask for your support to turn. And if you look at the first slide that comes up, and I just want you, there's our family. Oxygen is to the body, hope is to the mind. And if you can even just hold that concept today, if we were to take oxygen out of this room, what would happen? If we were to take hope out of this room, what would happen? Sadly, COVID came along and took a lot of hope from a lot of people. Some people are still struggling. They're trying to find their way through probably many of the traumas that the hope has the conflict or COVID has brought. So today, what we want to try and do is to share with you a mission and a vision going forward. So that's our Hope family. They all do it voluntary. And when we can pay our facilitators, we do. But everybody has a mission, along with Mandy is here with me today, to actually grow hope throughout our communities. And that's what we've been doing. So if you look at the next slide, and I want you just to think about this next slide. And I want you to visualize it and imagine what it would be like to become the first Hope district. Like we are at the moment, we have become dementia friendly. We have so much going on in our communities. But if you can have an umbrella that has hope, we would be the first district. The district in Chicago has been the one that has taken it on in the States, and we've linked with IFRED, which is the International Federation for Research into Depression, and they have endorsed a lot of what we're doing. But we really believe here that we need to start doing something homegrown. And I think that's the lovely thing. What we're setting out to do is to turn this into the first district of hope. So we would be known for that. We've already activated a lot of stuff, and I'll share with you what we have done. But on the next slide is to the why. And I think if you look at why do we need it? And I think looking at the people that you all represent every day, I think some of these issues are very much the forefront. We know hopelessness and helplessness, sadly, are the primary predictors of suicide. And suicide hasn't gone away. It's still in our communities today, and it's still here. And we need to be doing even more proactive now to try and prevent and to save lives. Hopelessness is associated with many negative consequences. And if you look at some of the consequences, and this is all the evidence that I'm sharing with you today, we look at depression, we look at bullying, look at anxiety, and look at how 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health problem in the course of the year. Since COVID, I believe that number has gone up. And I think we're seeing maybe 1 in 2, even though the Public Health Agency hasn't come out with that as yet. But I really believe there's more people experiencing it now than ever before. We also know that COVID has caused a lot of unrest. And if you look at unrest in context of communities, when there's a sense of hopelessness, unrest happens. And that's when you start to see kind of the conflicts and certain things that goes on in communities, because it leaves a vacuum. And if we don't introduce hope, that vacuum will increase. And that's when we're going to start to see a lot of more civil unrest. So there's a reason why we're visioned to make it go forward. So why, again, on the next slide, if you take a look at what it says on the next one, thank you. This is why we want to invest in it. And if you look at individual, this is all the evidence. Hope accounts for 14% more productivity in a workplace. So even just hold that for a moment and just think of 14% more productivity in a workplace. So if you're coming from a workplace, you know, a high hoper can go home at 3 o'clock. A less high hoper has to stay until 5. A high hoper has a passion and a purpose and a vision and is part of that organizational structure. But sometimes people need skills and knowledge to actually do that. High hope levels, again, is linked to absenteeism, more productivity. And because of the very agenda you're here today is with health and well-being, we know high hoper people take care of their health far more so than people with less hope. They actually have health on their agenda. So you're actually doing prevention and early intervention by introducing it. High hope is associated with better academic outcomes. Now, I want you to think of a young child today that maybe is getting a D in their results, and all of a sudden you're teaching them skills that can increase to a C. What is an outcome for a young person going out of school with that something extra that gives them something for a hope for their future, whatever journey they take? That's the evidence, and it's a teachable skill. What we have done here in this beautiful part of the world, and I don't come from here, the accent is County Leitch, but I always say this is my home. I've been here for 40 years and I couldn't find a nicer place to live. But what I have found here is we are the first place that has actually done the evidence and the research. And what we have done here has been presented at the Kennedy Foundation in the States and also the World Health Organization to say that we've taught our young people hope. And when we discovered that we could teach it, we says if children get this, then adults need it too. So that's the reason why we've set on a new journey. So if we look at the next slide, and I'm going through them quite quickly, and I'll take questions at the end if anybody wants to query anything. So on the next slide, when I set out on this journey first, nobody would invest in it because initially they thought it was something religious I was going with. And what I always say is hope is something personal. If somebody chooses religion, then they can choose it, and I'll always be respectful of that. But the scientific and the evidence around how hope can actually change the whole structure of the brain. And we've been teaching a group of young people this morning on how the brain works, and it was very thought-provoking. So this is when I asked people out in our community, this is just a couple of quotes when I said to people, tell me about hope. And if you go out in your communities tomorrow and ask people about hope, it's amazing the conversations you'll start to have. The future, and I love that. That's a male 38. That's the kind of just a portion that we took. The future will be brighter. Hope is power. And I always go to the one, hope is me. And that was a young girl who her mum, she said, sadly had miscarried and lost 3 babies. And she arrived and she says, I'm hope for my mum. And I think that gives us inspiration of what children and young people feel. There's one there that I draw your attention to. Hope is when someone puts their arm around me when I'm ready to let go. And that was a young man who had attempted suicide, and a taxi driver had just put his arm around him and said, come on, son, let's see what we can do for tomorrow. That young man is still here today because of an intervention of a taxi driver. So I think there's really power in when human beings connect, when people are in distress. That's the reason why we're doing it. That's the reason why we believe in it. The evidence is there. It is worth investing in it. It will be a vision, a mission that will put us on the map for something so unique. And post-COVID, it actually will create something that will create a healing journey out of trauma. And I really believe that's why we want to invest in it. So I think it's over to you. Good step next. Can I get the next slide? Thank you. I feel like I'm when I say next slide. There's what it is. And, you know, if anybody wants to look up Dr. Shane Lopez, and if you want to look up some of his research around this, he done the Gallup study in the States, he's done the Gallup study worldwide, and he's measured hope. Hope can be measured. So if you were doing interventions at the beginning of something, you can measure it using the adult hope scale. You can measure it at the end. We've already measured some of the work. Mandy has done work up in Sure Start with young parents, and she has done the hope and attachment. We've measured it pre and post. And the response from Sure Start was that of all the programs that has ever been delivered, they've never seen a shift in hope in young mothers as a result of the program. So we can see the evidence is there that it's working, but it's a belief that the future will be better than the present. So if you could just hold that, it's a belief. So it's more than just a wish. It's more than just I hope. It's a real belief that the future will be better than the present. But it's along with something so powerful there. It says the belief that I have something inside to make it so. So if we are going on this route, it's about empowering people to actually come involved. It's not about doing for you, it's doing with you. And any people I've spoken to in the community at the moment, everybody's saying, just sign me up, we're ready. We want this, we need it. So the community are there, and I'm talking about all communities. I know the migrant community, we were with them a couple of months back, and they said, listen, when you want this day, we'll cook food. If you need food, we'll cook food. People are willing to get involved in this, and I think it's something well worth. I just want to show that last one. Hope is a vision for something in your future, fueled by both positive feelings and inspired actions. So if you think of that in your concept of, that's what hope is, that's the science and the evidence around it. So that's the reason why we're investing. And the next slide, thank you so much. There it is. This is what we're asking for, is a hope campaign. Now, I'm going to ask Roisin just to share some of the consultation that we have done so far.
So we consulted with the community because we wanted to sort of measure, are people interested in this? Is there an appetite for it? So we asked them, what does the Day of Hope look like to you? And some of the responses we got were, it would be laughter and fun, it would be feeling contentment, organise a community space for people to meet and celebrate hope. It could be a storytelling, human library type event. It's about togetherness. It's about empowerment and strength. It's an intergenerational. It's also about bringing the outside inside with a nature focus and a gathering just really of people. And then we also asked them, what actions would you take? So people were saying, let's start by having the hope conversations. Let's involve more people. Let's bring people together to plan the day and spread a message of the Day of Hope that we're planning. Keep hope alive by talking about our Day of Hope. Think about how we involve people in a campaign of fighting stories of hope and identify champions of hope in the community and be a champion of hope ourselves. So there's an appetite there for the community and people, just the general public, to want to do something. So our plan is to, in September, to have a launch for the events that we're planning for in May. And that's, I suppose, really what we're looking for from yourselves is help and support and endorsement with that.
Thank you, Roisin. And we couldn't do it without Roisin because, you know, when you get great people together, something magical can happen. And I really believe when we had that consultation day, it was like social workers, people that often you don't engage with, actually turned up and showed up and says, how can we do this in our practice? How can we do this in our schools? How can we do this in our communities? So everybody is involved in it. It's happening. When people come on our training, they train up, they qualify, and they become Hope Ambassadors. We have quite a lot of Hope Ambassadors. They graduate, they wear a gown. So we're bringing university into the communities. So, and it's lovely to see an 80-year-old lady dressed in a gown, graduating as a Hope Ambassador. There's something that actually really brings something really powerful to you. We see a youngster in school and we ask them about hope, and we put up, and I'll share this with you, and I'm not being offensive in any way, but I just thought it was something really powerful one of the young people said to us. He's a wee 12-year-old boy, and he was in the class, and they said, the lovable rogue. And, you know, he'll come and he'll join, but, you know, he was going to make your life hell. And we said, send him in. Let's see what happens. And we give out the word HOPE. And we say to him, come up with all the acronyms you can think of. And this young man, a troublemaker and everything possible, turns around and says to us, help our politicians engage, HOPE. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, but I just thought, what? Here is this wee boy who saw it was a troublemaker, and all he wants is people to talk and get together. So it's something that I think we need to be thinking of, because this is what the young generation are telling us. And if we can listen to them, I really believe that we can make a difference. So going forward, and can I invite you for the next slide there? Thank you. Fear is a great motivator, but hope is far better. And today we've just shared a little bit of the evidence with you. We have a range of programs, and I would like to offer council here maybe a workshop on the evidence and the science, and even to come on the training, even for 3 hours, to give up 3 hours of your time, we would be willing to do that to get you in a place where we understand the theory and the evidence and why we're investing, so that if somebody asks you, you will know exactly this is not something wishy-washy. This is something well worth investing in, and it can help save lives. So I really believe it's something we can do. It's the first place that's doing it post-COVID. So all other communities around the world that we've spoken to are all looking for something to help heal after COVID. This could be the opportunity that we could showcase something here. But as Roisin said, we're going to start it off in September and activate it in September, run a whole range of programs throughout the year. And then at the end, and towards probably the end of the mayor's session, that we would have a really powerful district of hope. And we call it a district because we want to make sure nobody feels excluded and everybody feels included and they're part of it. So we are going to look to education, we're going to look to the health service, we're going to look to organisations, and we're going to say, let's come together and let's make a difference, because I really believe we can. So just going forward, and I think, thank you for the next slide, thank you so much. There you are. Roisin has shared the consultation and the findings. People say, have you asked? Yes, we have asked. We've asked everybody that we can think of, and everybody. We even went to Ardnashee School, special needs school in the city. And the young people there who are just about to leave a very secure environment of education to go into the big world, we've actually taken them through, and they've all become Hope Ambassadors. And what the parents are saying to me today is, it's the first time my son is talking about hope for the future. He's looking for a job, and he thinks he can do this, and he thinks he can do that. If we can do that instill with young people with special abilities, look at what we could do for the rest if we really make it together. And that's what I believe we're going forward. So just to kind of sum up, because I know your agenda is big and I don't want to take all the time, but just in the last 2 slides, just to sum up. A day of hope to recognise and celebrate hope out of this district, to share the science, the stories and the strategies. That's what we want to do. We want to start building those strategies, and then at the end of it to be able to share and showcase. We import an awful lot in here for people to come in and tell us how to do things. I really believe we already have such powerful assets in our community. We have people that have gone through 30, 40 years of conflict, have survived and come through it. People have experienced clerical and every other types of abuse. They've come through it and they've survived. We have an amazing community of people who have such resilience and strength and hope. We need to activate them, support them, and I really believe this will be the place to live. As part of the Day of Hope, we've asked the Mayor, Rachel, she met with us this morning and has agreed now to support our journey. And that's what I'm asking you today, is to validate it, to be part of our journey. We will be here to support you in any way. This isn't about money. Can I just say that up front? Because I've gone to a couple of places and all they've asked me is, how much is it going to cost? But what I say, how much does it cost for a human life? That's what I will come back to people and say. And we're a voluntary organisation. And if people can afford stuff, I would say, please try and pay for it. If you can't, we will try and work around you. And that's what I have tried to do with all the communities that we're working with. We've not put money as an obstacle in the way. So that's what we're looking for. So just to sum up, on that last slide, I think we're on the last slide. Yes, we are. There you are. To activate the How to Hope, and probably the beginning at end of September, the beginning of October would be the initial kickstart of it. We will hold a range of events. We'll invite you to become part of it, to help us in any way you can in your role. And if you need that training and support, we will be there so that we're all off the same agenda and the same template going forward. So that's our vision. So just that final wee one that's coming up. We're going to create a Hope Forum, and we've already started with some members coming on board. Anybody can join that forum, but this is the core thing that they come with, because they asked people, over 10,000 people, on what is it that a Hope leader would bring to a group and what they have left behind. These were the components that they said, somebody that is a leader, this is what they leave behind. They give you hope, They give you stability, empowerment, compassion and trust. So our New Hope Forum that we will be established, that's what it's going to be based on. So people who join it, be part of it and want to activate it. And we already have an amazing group of people that are saying, yes, we can do this. This is what our constitution will be, and this is where we will work from. So going forward, we've already got a baseline, we've already got the evidence. This is what we're looking to do. And just finally, that last slide, there you are. We seek your support, your endorsement and your support. And I just want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it on behalf of Resilio. And I know Mandy's here with us today. And Mandy is a mom, an amazing person who's become a master trainer. And you okay me saying it, Mandy? Mandy lost her daughter to suicide. And through the work that Mandy's doing has instilled hope in so many people that are today struggling with loss. And I want to validate and acknowledge that today. But that's what we're trying to do, my friends. And I'll ask you for your support in any way possible. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Murray, Rasheen and Mandy. Very interesting. Without hope, what have we? We have absolutely nothing. And for some people, all they have is hope. So if there's any questions or comments, Councillor McDade.
Thanks, Chair. And thank you very much, all of you, for coming. It was really inspirational. I work in mental health as well. I'm an occupational therapist over in Grantia, and I talk a lot about hope, and I facilitate the RAP course, you know, and a lot of that's spent talking about hope, and I know the importance of it from both work, personal life, everything, you know, how important it is for everybody. So I think it's a brilliant idea. Really, like, want to get on board 100% to support you as much as possible. It's really inspirational. Thank you very much for coming along.
Councillor Barr.
Thank you very much. And may I please say on behalf of the SDLP and myself, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I had the privilege of meeting yourself and Roshin, and you talked to me about this. And as someone, for me, who believe everything I have achieved is because of hope, I am absolutely sold. And I can say right now, you can sign me up in that forum. And if I just say what I believe, in my view, what hope is, it's helping other people everywhere. That is what I believe what hope is all about. And at a time where communities are struggling with the cost of living crisis, we've just come out of COVID-19 and we're still grappling with what happened and the disillusionment due to the lack of a government, that people have lost hope that anything could happen. So hope is telling us to rise up to the challenge. It's telling us to embrace the challenges that we see within our communities and foster the next generation. And I've really appreciated what you have said. It's not offensive at all. I think that young person was very, very right, calling on to us to take the challenge. And another thing I would like really to say is, as someone who genuinely believes in hope, I came across a wonderful man called Anwar Ekomani, and you might know about him. And I just want to read a comment of what he said about hope. And he said, hope is the elixir of life. It allows us to look forward to tomorrow. No matter how difficult our present circumstances might be, it gives us the strength to pass through any situation, knowing that it won't last forever. It makes the impossible appear possible so that we can accomplish feats others dream unattainable. And when we are feeling down, hope reminds us of all the good things in our lives that makes everything worth fighting for. I wanted to read that because I think when people are giving hope, that's when I've given up on hope. That's what we really need to start reminding people. So thanks once again for coming. And if there's a proposal required, I'll be more than happy to propose to endorse this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Millis.
Gurmila Mayoga for coming today and for giving that presentation. It was very insightful. Sinn Féin would be more than happy to second the proposal if it is a proposal for us. As a mum of three myself, I always sing this song to my kids at night and it's called High Hopes. I don't know if you've ever heard it. And anytime my kids are in bad form, I always sing that song to them, even though I can't sing. I've absolutely not a tune in my head. But it would be, you know, we always sing about the high hopes. So we completely endorse what you're doing and we'd be delighted to stand beside you. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in and comment because I have talked to you before around this and I do think it's a really exciting prospect. But I wanted to comment in my first sort of introduction to it, which was Hope Ambassadors graduation at was Oak Grove College. And I at that stage it was my first sort of sense of what you were doing. And I thought at that point it was fantastic and how it engaged the young people. But then fast forward to later on in the year when I was in Chantal Community Centre at the graduation there. And I have to say that graduation was probably one of the most emotional events that I have attended because you could just see that those young women, what they personally got out of that course was unbelievable. And they were so proud of themselves and the journey that they have been on. So that alone just needs to be commended in terms of that work. And of course, I believe that this whole journey is going to be very exciting. And with the event then at the end, with that whole sort of community buy-in to bring it together as nearly a day of joy and a day of hope for the whole community, I just commend you for it. So I wish you well and hopefully we can all be part of it together. So thank you.
Councillor Hutton.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you very, very much for coming along today. That was really, really insightful. I've had the pleasure of going through the Hope training with yourself, Mary, through the work that I do at the Health Forum. And just to commend you on the work that you are doing throughout the community as well and upskilling the practitioners within the community that are working on that one-to-one level with people, which we do at the Health Forum. And it's given us a better toolkit to be dealing with people, to let them see that there is still hope within and to be hopeful in every type of situation. But thank you very much. And Mandy, thank you as well for allowing Mary to share your story. It's very brave and very inspirational to see that you're in a field of work where you have the personal experience to go and help someone else. So you're to be commended for that as well. And I'm very, very happy about the campaign and can't wait to see where it goes. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. No, I'm not a member of committee. Thank you for the presentation. I find it interesting that a 12-year-old troublemaker is the one who understands politicians. Like yourself, I've endured suicide in my own family. A younger brother took his own life. And following that, I think one of the things within our family circle we had to develop was hope. That there is something beyond the circumstances that you get through, particularly from my mother. I lost my father many, many years ago, but when you lose a younger brother, it's particularly traumatic. I've written down what I feel about hope here, that it starts with a recognition of reality and the belief that it can be improved. And I think if we can take that on board, we can develop the hope that we all seek. I also notice, that's the serious point, I note you're all women, or female. Do you think there is a difference in the psyche with regard to empathy, which is part of this whole process as well, between males and females? And we often hear, the man is the one who won't go to the doctor, who won't speak to his friends, all of that sort of thing. So is there anything that you have found that would suggest that?
I'm going to invite Mandy to share this because we're the first organisation that are actually going to have an all-male group to actually bring them on board to actually look at that whole area. So I'm going to let Mandy, because she's leading on it. Okay.
Thank you, Mary. And I'm really grateful that you've actually brought this up because I've already started research in a male and female brain to see, are there any differences in which they say a male's brain is 10% larger, but that has nothing to do with anything intellectual. But it's written down. It's written down. I strongly feel that men's mental health is equally as important as women's mental health. We are all human beings. I tried to source somebody that I thought could help, say, bring men out a little bit. And I discovered a guy, Mark Williams from Wales. And we as an organisation have invited him to come over and to train us so we can facilitate the programme that he has dedicated 10 years of his life to. So we would be the first to bring it to the island of Ireland. And he is coming over in September to train a group of us. I look at very much at postnatal depression in men. And I have been asking dads through the pregnancy journey, at any stage, were you asked if you were okay? And the honest truth is, not one father has said yes so far. So I will really dig my heels in with this, because we need to get better at understanding mental health is everybody, male, female. You know, it's something that does not discriminate against anything. We all need a bit of hope, and I'm really passionate about bringing something here that is specifically for men. So thank you for asking that.
I'd just like to thank you. You've given me a bit of hope. No, we wouldn't. We can all, get bogged down. We your baggage or crosses or whatever way we want to. But there's always somebody out there who's a lot worse off. And mental health is a huge problem and a growing and worrying problem, and particularly amongst young people. And even the threat of a young person potentially hurting herself or taking their own life causes, no doubt, causes chaos within the family circle, within friends. But for somebody to actually carry that out, it has to be devastating and have far-reaching consequences, and the ripples will no doubt go as far as that they have a huge impact. And it's very, very common, very common, and the services at the minute seem to be stretched to the limit. So if we can, through this project, give at least one person hope and saves one life, then the project has been worth it. So I'd like to thank you, and I wish you all the best. Yeah.
Can I add just one thing? Because we've talked about something emotive today, and out of good practice, can I have the lifeline recorded on the minutes so that if anything has come up for anyone in this room today, because we don't know anyone's story here, something could come up that people know that there is support, and the lifeline, I think it should be recorded on every minute so that people know that's there as support for people. Nobody should be alone and have to deal with any of their journeys. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank you for your time and presentation. Thank you. The chair's business. I have an issue that I want to bring up, and I have also been contacted by Councillor Barr. My issue is regards Ulster Rugby's decision to reinstate their sponsorship with Kingspan. And just before 1 a.m. on the 14th of June, fire at a 23-storey tower block in North Kensington broke out, and within minutes the fire had engulfed a number of floors. The fire eventually claimed the lives of 72 people. The fire spread vertically up the tower columns and laterally along cladding above and below window lines. The cladding was the primary cause of the fire spread. The dead included 6 members of the Coucher family, 5 members of the Hassim family, and 5 members of the El Wahib family. The youngest victim, 6-month Lena Belkadi, who died cradled in her mother's arms, 2-year-old Jeremiah Dean, 5-year-old Isaac Paulos, 5-year-old Hanaya Hassan, her 3-year-old sister, Fethia, 12-year-old Baruch Haftum, and 12-year-old Jessica Urbano Ramirez were some of the victims. The oldest victim, Sheila, was 84 years old and she'd lived there for 34 years. Baby Logan Gomez was stillborn the following day, June the 14th, after the morning after the fire. Young and old died together in an inferno of fire and toxic fumes. Despite repeated expressed safety concerns by residents, a previous report had criticised the tower's emergency lighting. Also, Grenfell Action Group had highlighted repeatedly major safety problems. Kingspan has been heavily criticised, and I have furnished all members here today with statements, all committee members, with statements of fact outlining the culture, ethos, and nefarious practices of Kingspan. And this was in evidence also in the Grenfell Tower public inquiry. Michael Gove had previously written to Ulster Rugby, asking them to reconsider the relationship with Kingspan over the firm's role in the Grenfell Tower. In his letter as UK Housing Minister, he asked them to consider the evidence presented, stating, "I do not believe that the public across these islands will feel that it is right that a community club should risk its reputation by partnering with a company whose practices have been so seriously called into question." Let that sink in. Kingspan product K15 was misleadingly marketed as suitable for use in high-rise buildings when they knew full well it wasn't, effectively covering the building in flammable material. The same evidence was enough for Mercedes Formula One team to cut ties with their sponsorship deal with Kingspan. I am asking this committee to stand shoulder to shoulder with the victims and their families, and I have been contacted by members of the Grenfell United campaign group, and that we call on Ulster Rugby to consider their sponsorship with Kingspan. It is time that sponsorship gives more regard to ethics than money from a firm directly responsible for the deaths of 72 people. And I just want to make a proposal, and that's all that has been said. And it's on. And I would ask if this committee would consider supporting the proposal. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. We at Sinn Féin would support you with this proposal. The Grenfell incident was an incident that left extreme trails of trauma among people in the community. We're sitting here today talking about hope. How can the families and the people left behind that have been affected by this tragedy have any type of hope whenever there are organisations still accepting sponsorship from Kingspan? It is disappointing and very worrying that the Ulster Rugby Club are continuing with their sponsorship. I think our letter to write to them is of paramount importance. So Sinn Féin do fully support the proposal to get the letter sent off. It's something that you're sitting there now, Gary, repeating it all. It's not that you forget about it, but just reading out those names and the ages of the people, it has brought it all back, how horrendous this actually was. So it's just right and just that we do write off and explain how we feel that it's not right that they are sponsoring them, and it's not positive for the families and that are going through the trauma that they've suffered.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the SDLP, I also want to say we will second that proposal. I think just listening to you reading, I have a friend who lost a daughter in that tragedy from Kenya. And it's something that will never be forgotten. And what happened, to even read today that the Ulster Rugby are planning to get sponsorship, which they will have the name of this organization on their T-shirts, advertising everything they have been doing. And they were responsible for the materials that were used that ended up being causing that tragedy that happened is short of disgraceful. And sometimes we talk about tragedies that has happened to people that we don't know. It still has the same impact as the people that you know, because it is about humanity. So we'll be very happy to support this. And I also support the idea of in inviting that group to come and talk to us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Guy, Alderman Guy online.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was quite surprised to see that Ulster Rugby had went ahead with accepting more sponsorship from Keenspan after the events which happened in Grenville. Listen, I know there's a lot of things we can't say because the case is ongoing and stuff like that there, but rugby often talks about morals and basically saying that football. I'm a football fan, by the way. I'm not a rugby fan. They often say that football has no morale. So we basically take in the money and stuff like that there, and large sponsorship deals and stuff, and the extortionate prices or wages that players are paid. I think in this occasion, Ulster Rugby has really let itself down, and the rugby fraternity, as they say as well, because it's not just a small, team that would struggle to get sponsorship anywhere that we're talking about here. Ulster Rugby is basically now a highly rated European side, and I don't think they would struggle to get decent, honest sponsorship from anywhere. So I fully back our idea here to write to Ulster Rugby and let the feelings known of this committee and council, and fully back your item there, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Alderman Guy. Do we need to do a vote or?
No, there's no one indicated to speak.
No one has indicated to speak any opposition. Folks, look, I would like to thank you all and really appreciate the fact that it's unanimous. I have met some of the families of those who lost their lives, and there's no other way to say it that this week they have been slapped in the face. And I think that what we have done here today and the previous item was talking about hope. I think that this will go in some way to give some of those campaigning hope after the decision that we have made here today. And again, I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you. Elaine, you have an item
Yes.
to bring up.
Thank you, Chair. I think for once we will be talking something positive about bonfires, so this is not bad. And on behalf of the SDLP and the Bonfire Working Group, I want to put on record that we welcome the steps and commend the young people and all the residents involved in the decision to not proceed with the controversial Bogside bonfire at the Minan Square site in this year. This is a huge step forward in tackling the contagious issues around bonfires, not only within this council area, but across the north. The last few days, I have met and spoke to several residents and young people involved in the planning and building the Bogside bonfire in Minan Square. And yesterday, Councillor Duffy and myself met with another young person also involved in building the bonfire, and some residents who were involved in the discussion not to have a bonfire this year. They explained the reasons behind the decision they took. This was no mean feat and was the conclusion of an intense consultation between residents themselves and young people. But I also understand that this has taken almost 10 years to get to where we are today. And on behalf of the SDLP, I want to commend everyone involved, and in particular the young people who were setting a good example of what good leadership looks like. I think nobody here needs me to tell you how the Bogside community has suffered enough. It's well documented, and what was once a celebration of culture has over time become a catalyst for antisocial behavior, violence, and chaos in the community. After speaking with the young people I met, it's clear the bonfire gave them a sense of purpose in an area of high deprivation and one which has suffered from historic neglect. The escalating cost of dealing with the aftermath of the bonfire should also be noted, including cleanup cost and policing of the event. More importantly than the financial cost, it is the cost of the mental health and well-being of the community. The residents I spoke to also shared feelings of anxiety in the run-up to the 15th August. None of the residents I spoke to with support bonfires in their area because there is no guarantee of a safe bonfire. This is why the decision made by the Bogside youth and residents is so important, and we should all celebrate that decision. When residents and young people reach out to me, they wanted to speak with pride why they made that decision. And I want to read out some of the direct quotes from young people and one of the leaders. This one young person told me, "We live in a good community and should not be portrayed in a negative light because of one-night events, but we have a chance to change things now in the future years." Key words here are chance to change things now and in the future years. A community leader also said, after mediation work with the young people who build the bonfire each year, we reached an alternative to the fire. Our young people would like to have a community event supported by council. The benefit of this would mean that there is no fire containing flags, posters, and effigies, and a regulated event ensuring safety for spectators as well as all residents with a start time and end time that is agreeable to all. Just listening to the residents and young people, I saw genuine care for their community, a true realization that bonfires are becoming more harmful to their community health and well-being. We as council have the responsibility to support them and not only to embrace this new idea, but to encourage it to continue year on year. And as chair of the bonfire working group, I also want to put it on record that every member of the working group welcomes and supports the idea of an intervention program to support the community decision. So myself and Councillor Duffy have discussed this, and we would like to make a joint proposal, and that is to ask Council to immediately form an interdepartmental subgroup comprising of business and culture, leisure and community development, festival and events, teams, and other statutory organizations such as Northern Ireland Housing Executive, DFC, and educational authorities. And I think we've added their existing structures of community organization to work with the residents of Bogside to organize a community event on the 15th of August 2023 as an alternative to the bonfire at Minan Square. It should also be noted that there are currently no local festivals of this kind happening in the Bogside. This event will bring the community in line with other areas in Derry who benefit from similar events and fun days throughout the year, but the huge impact will be preventing large groups of young people leaving the area to attend other bonfires taking place in the city, reducing the risk of antisocial behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Barr for working with myself on this proposal. I think we did both meet with local residents and with a bonfire builder yesterday in terms of this, but I know that work had been ongoing for some time with some of the community organisations within the Bogside, and I have to say that we really commend the young people in the area for the decision that they have taken, but also the community organisations and groups and residents who have been working on this for some time. As a councillor for Ballyarnett, I am envious of the position that the Bogside is in at this minute in time. I hope that the young people of Galia are looking at this and seeing that there may be an alternative way to move forward. In terms of the proposal that we're putting forward here at the minute, I know I have sat on the bonfire working group for quite a number of years, and this was something that we had been talking about, or I certainly have been talking about, in terms of doing something that would have a real impact on the night of the 15th. We do have wonderful activities, family fun days and all the rest of it, but sometimes we need to look at what is going to actually impact on the young people who are involved in building the bonfires and being present at them on the night. And if something like this, in terms of a concert or an event, is what will actually attract young people away from the actually really, really dangerous activities of being around an illegal fire, then I think that this needs to be commended and explored. So I'm very happy to bring this proposal forward with Councillor Barr, and really happy to see how we can progress this. So thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Anyway, Councillor Hutton.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks to Lillian and Sandra as well for the proposal. As an elected representative of the Moor Ward, which sits on the Bog side, I would also like to commend the young people and the community representatives and residents. I've been watching this unfold over the past few weeks, and it's something that every area would like to see happening. We're fortunate enough that it has happened this year for us, and I would support the proposal that something is put in place of the bonfire, so that the young people don't have to leave the area to attend others. Also to commend the bonfire working group. As Sandra said, it has probably taken 10 years, but that's testament as well to the patience and to the expertise of yourselves and the encouragement that you give all our elected representatives to deal with the issues in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. I know I'm not a member of the committee, and again, the basis of the proposal there, there's no issue with organising and pulling groups together. The only query I would have slightly as regards to funding, and in regards to, you know, I mean, there will be community festivals and there's various things there, and there's various other bonfires held at different times of the year, and we've managed to get some of those removed, and now there's lightings a beacon and various things like that, and maybe council can facilitate things like that. But it's just the case of there are other groups, and they're trying to take young people away from activities which may not be, which would be detrimental to them and detrimental to the communities. But again, you have to follow procedure, and you have to get your funding in place at different times. So it's a wee bit tight in my view on it. Maybe officers have a different view on it. If they can magic money together to try and get something pulled together, I've no problem with the proposal and that, pulling it together and trying to see what can be done. But I don't know, have we got the funds to try and organise anything major for this? And if we can, if it can be done there, it can be done in other areas. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in.
Thanks, Alderman Kerrigan.
Can I say?
Councillor Barr and then Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, thank you. I know we talked earlier today about hope, and we talked about money, and money should never be an issue when it comes to something amazing like this that brings hope to the community. It is possible that we can reallocate a bit of money within our own council, but I also spoke to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive, and the area manager is absolutely on board in terms of funding whatever program that will be put there. What I would ask is that it's not left for one institution, because it might be more funding that they may not have, and every little does help coming from everywhere, and we have to find a pot of funding that we can use to support this community. Because if we think about what could happen on the 15th night, we know that possibly there will be a bonfire in the city, and all those young people may be tempted to go there. So this is a deterrent, and it is going to be cheaper than just not doing nothing. And the aftermath we've talked about, I remember reading a report that in 2019, we spent almost 40,000 clearing up, £40,000. So about 10 or 15,000 is nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, just to briefly say, I mean, like we were very clear when we met yesterday, the time is of the essence, that it is a very, very tight schedule in terms of organising anything or doing anything, and funding, of course, will be an issue. Councillor Barr has outlined there, you know, what we're looking to do is just bring people together at this point for a conversation. We need to strike while the iron's hot. Sometimes this is where you do get results. If there's an idea whose time has come, then we need to sort of grasp it. So that's where I'm sitting with it. This is an opportunity and we need to just take it now because it's on the table.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Bonfires are a very, very thorny issue, and you know, the fact that there isn't going to be a bonfire in the Bogside is very, very encouraging. I've worked with young people. There's nobody that has, I have absolutely no time for bonfires, but I think it's in how it's handled. A lot of young people feel alienated, marginalised, and they're demonised. And demonisation and condemnation does not have a solution. Hard work and craft, most of it behind the scenes, is how we get the results, like hopefully that we have here. Happy to support the proposal. Anything that can put an end to toxic bonfires, and they're toxic in a lot of ways, not just from the materials that's burnt, but from burning effigies and photographs of people and you know, they have families, they have children, they have parents who are watching this, and it would be a positive step if this eradicates this, and it's good to see that young people seem to be on board here. It's a very positive step forward. Take it that's unanimous then.
So just for the record, it's a joint proposal. So are you seconding that? Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And I'm not sure, Lynn, did you have another issue, or was that further on in the meeting that you discussed further on? Right, item number 7, matters arising from the open minutes of the Health and Community Committee held on Thursday the 15th of June 2023, pages 21 to 34. Councillor Boggs.
Sure, Margaret Chair, just for a matter of accuracy, HC 9023 on page 30, it was Learmount Community Development Association and Fountain Street Community Development Association that I congratulated rather than Waterside Neighbourhood Partnership and Siam Mills Community Forum. So if that could just be changed for accuracy in the minutes, please.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on to item number 8, determination of the application for renewal of the entertainment licence for Rosie Joes Limited. And Seamus, we're taking this.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you'll note from the report the legislation relating to issuing entertainment licensing, and the report also outlines the history in relation to this premises. Council has issued an entertainment licence for 3 months with a number of conditions following a special meeting in March. Council officers have been liaising with management regarding compliance with these conditions, which aim to reduce noise impact at neighbouring residential properties. The report outlines the requirements for an entertainment licence application, and I can confirm that the fee and all necessary certificates have been received and are deemed satisfactory. No representations have been received from statutory consultees, and the noise complaints received from local residents have been resolved, and the licence conditions have been complied with. Members, officers recommend that a licence be granted for an initial 3-month period, with a further 9-month extension granted should there be no substantiated noise complaints during the initial 3 months. A members' committee may also decide to grant the licence for 1 year or refuse the licence. And please note that the applicant has a right of appeal to decision taken by committee. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Duffy.
Yeah,
I had one question and Shim's just answered it there and as I finished talking. I'm quite content with the report and I think that it really demonstrates that Rosie Joes immediately complied with everything that we had asked of them. They have been very forthcoming in their correspondence with ourselves and have ensured that everything that we have asked of them, they have done, and they have done it quite speedily. They have been under severe restrictions over the past number of months because of the restrictions that we put on them. This has impacted on them as a business as well. And I know that they have lost staff and they're in a process of having difficulty retaining staff as a result of this. So my question was, which you answered, was can we extend it for further, which you have said that we can. At this point, because there is no further issues, they seem to have complied with absolutely everything that we have asked of them. In terms of running a business, I would be quite content if we extend their license for a year. Because to me, there is no further issues. They have addressed everything that was asked of them, and we are now in a place where an extension of their contract, their license can be granted, and it allows them as a business to ensure that they can recruit and retain staff and do proper planning for the business that they have. So that would be my proposal at this point.
Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we are, as SDLP, we're happy as well. I would second that, Councillor Duffy, just that they have complied with everything, the restrictions that were put in place, and there doesn't seem to be any further objections about it. So I think we would be happy enough to second Councillor Duffy's proposal.
I'm not hearing any opposition, so take it that's unanimous. Okay. Item number 9, planned approach to temporary street trading licensing for this year's annual Relief of Dairy celebrations.
Thank you, Chair. Members, by way of background, Council has approved new criteria relating to the issue of temporary street trading licenses and the development of a joint enforcement protocol with PSNI. This new approach relates to concerns raised about particular flags deemed offensive being displayed at a licensed trader's stall at last year's event. The new criteria seeks to address the display and sale of a range of inappropriate items, including merchandise that promotes, supports, or glorifies hate crimes, or contravenes Council Section 75 duties with respect to promoting good relations. This new criteria has been successfully applied to a number of events to date, and temporary street licenses will not be granted for the display, sale, or supply of items that promote, support, or glorify prescribed organisations, and they are outlined in the report in the appendix. Members, the licensing process is outlined in the report, which includes advice provided to the traders who may be attending the Relief of Dairy celebrations this year. And it also includes a copy of the special conditions outlined in Appendix 5. Council officers will also liaise with PSNI in relation to unlicensed traders who attend the event, and enforcement options are outlined in Appendix 6 for members' information. Chair, members are requested to approve the planned approach to the administration and enforcement of temporary licensing for the Relief of Dairy celebrations and similar events held in council area going forward.
Councillor Deeney.
I know it's been outlined, and I know we're all aware that last year some of the stalls were selling items such as flags. These items, as you said, were supporting, promoting and glorifying prescribed organisations. We all know that this is a highly sensitive issue, particularly in our city, and can cause issues in our communities. And I just think as a council this year, we need to be out actively ensuring that these items are not being sold. But you have highlighted that, but just to reiterate it. Thank you.
Councillor McDade.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to propose that we take the recommendation. Like Councillor Deeney says, last year there were things on sale at the trading stalls that can cause offence to a lot of people, and some people will always buy these to cause offence. So I think that we're right as a council to take a stand on it and ensure that it's not being sold on something that we're granting a licence for. So I'm happy to propose that we accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Our speakers. Oh,
Chair.
apologies, Alderman Guy. Alderman Guy online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Declaring interest, first of all, as a member of the Apprentice Boys. Firstly, I'd just like to point out, and I've read through this here item on the agenda, I'd just like to point out, as discussed before in this here, the Apprentice Boys have nothing to do with trading here. Someone reading this item will look at this and think, well, the Apprentice Boys are all over this here. We've nothing to do with it. Council, this is council's remit to check for trade licensed traders. They issue the license. They basically decide what they can sell and what they cannot sell on it. In this case here, they've come forward with the parachute regiment flags, paramilitary merchandise, and so on like that there, which has to be agreed upon. Like, you know, it wasn't that I didn't agree upon it in the last time when it was brought up. It was just that we had issues with the way it was being portrayed. Now, it says here about the PSNI and council will work together. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, the PSNI will only get involved if there is an issue that hasn't been sorted with the council, that may be going around with checking the licenses and so on, checking what's on the stalls. And only then, if there was an issue with the PSNI, get involved in this. Because it's entirely up to the street trader here, and I think once this is issued, the letter was issued to them, I don't think there will be any issues. I think it'll be sorted there and then. But I just feel that I asked for a list at the time. It was rebuked by all our councillors. We now have a list of prescribed organisations, which is actually quite light, but I'm apparently told that this is the exempt or the prescribed organisation list that is handed out when someone asked for it. I think that there should be more on it. And this is where there's other grey areas in this, where someone could bring out something and sell it and basically say, well, it wasn't on the list, so surely I'm doing nothing wrong. You know, there was an incident at a council run event in the Guildhall Square where there was items on sale. The council got in contact with the stall holder that night. They agreed to remove certain items, but the next day they had items on sale, which people still contacted me about. So this is where the issue is: what offends one person doesn't offend another. And that's where we get into the whole grey situation, and it stirs up, what do we do here? How do we deal with this? Who looks after it? Does it require a full list? And after talking to Seamus yesterday, this full list could be endless and go on forever. But I would like to see, just on what's actually 2.7 there and 3.2, where they talk about that merchandise promoting any organisation, group, event. I would like to add individual to that, because there is cases where individual items with an individual person are being sold in this here, such, and I'll use an example. Michael Stone basically is not linked to any paramilitary organisation, classed himself as a freelance paramilitary. The way when you see Bobby Sands thing, it doesn't mention anything about the IRA, but it would be offensive to my community, just the way Michael Stone would be offensive to any right-thinking person, like, basically. So the thing is, I don't think we're there yet. I think this is going to cause a lot of hassle with grey areas, but it's welcome that we've moved forward a bit on it. But I do know, and I've spoken with people, and they are a bit concerned that the Apprentice Boys was mentioned a lot in this, because as we have agreed, and on the visit to the Apprentice Boys Memorial Hall, it was agreed that the Apprentice Boys don't have anything to do with these traders. They come along, they set up, as long as they have the license, they're allowed to do that. The Apprentice Boys organise the parade, and they talk to the residents groups in the lead up and aftermath of it. And that's what they do. They have nothing to do with the trading stalls. So I think I would be worried that this could be construed in the wrong manner. Somebody looking on this here and reading that item. But thanks, Chair, for letting me have that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Alderman Guy. I did have a lot of notes on this, but gremlins or something seemed to have messed up my iPad. Look, I said at the time, and there was the councillor who brought this up was no longer here, and that led to the meeting in the Apprentice Boys Hall. And at that meeting, it had been stated by someone that an our elected rep that it's not about demonising and that condemnation doesn't work, and that the police isn't always the first port of call. It was a shock to me because this person was a serial condemner who is no longer here either. But this report is, we're going down the rabbit hole that I sort of thought that we would be going down. You know, there's lists on this group, or there's groups on this list, like the SARE era, I think, was on it, and the IPLO, who don't exist and haven't existed on decades. My problem with the report is that those who are making the rules, you know, they're calling the shots on who's acceptable and who's not acceptable. You know, for me, I think, you know, we're going to do a list, we'll be here all night. I would like to see the REC and the B specials. That would be offensive to somebody else. There's other people who've frosted the snowman on the list because somebody who painted him on a window ended up in prison and very lengthy duration out on bail with stringent bail conditions. I don't think this is the way forward. I won't be voting for it. I think what we need, I actually think that meeting in the Apprentice Boys, that a lot was said there, and I think that's the way forward, not by picking something and putting it on the people. So that's just a personal opinion regarding this. So we have a proposal by Councillor McDade. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Deeney. I don't think, apart from myself, there's no other.
Abstaining?
Yeah, I'm abstaining. Yeah.
Chair, could I?
Yeah, Alderman.
Yeah, I just want to add that I'm going to abstain on that as well. I agree with what you were saying there, and as I said, that it could go around and around in circles all night. And I think what the discussions we had that day were far better than what's actually in this paper. So I'll be abstaining as well.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. No other dissent or opposition? No. Item number 10, the Waterside Shared Village Shared Management Agreement, and Barry is going to take this.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this is to seek your approval to enter into shared management agreement with the Waterside Shared Village from the 1st of July this year to March, 31st of March 26, and to seek your approval to pay a key holding fee of £1,868.25p from those dates to the Waterside Shared Village, and also your approval of an annual key holding fee thereafter of 2491 for the next 2 financial years. Members, for those that aren't aware, the Waterside Shared Village project's now open, and there's a wide range of activities at the centre. And the new building currently serves 2 functions: the leisure operation and the community hub. And the community hub is what the shared management agreement is for. You'll see the details around the SMA and Appendix A. So members, just in terms of the key holding fee, we've outlined what it is for this financial year and the next 2 financial years. So the recommendation is that you approve the SMA for the period listed, and that you approve the key holding fees for the 3 years, this financial year and the next 2 financial years up to the end of March 26. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Deeney.
Just to say that we're happy to propose it, and we'd like to welcome the collaborative approach between council and the community sector. The report highlights that this is much more than a leisure facility. The community hub is an integral part of the shared village, and the structures are now in place to ensure it's managed as a true shared facility. Thank you to council for their involvement in making this happen, and we would be delighted to support the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Denny. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. Was that a proposal to accept? So I will second the proposal to accept the recommendation. We are very happy with the work that's been ongoing, and I know Councillor Mooney from SDLP has been involved with it a lot, and he was really happy with it as well. Thank you.
Sounds unanimous then. There's no opposition or. Okay. We'll move on to item number 11, consensual grant making model 2023 to 2024, including action plans for Strabane Town, Sperrin, Derg, Vaughan, Ballyarnett and Foylside DEAs.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to seek your approval for the consensual grant making action plans for this financial year. We've received a number to date, as you'll see, listed in section 1.1. And that's an approval of 15,000 funding allocation to each of them. For those new members that mightn't be aware, members, this is going back as far as 2019, and we work with the 8 local growth partnerships, and they're involved in the action planning and decision making process that we then subsequently bring through council here. So council has allocated 120,000 to this, and an allocation of 15,000 to the 7 DEAs in Strabane Town. So you'll see in the recommendations, members, we're just looking your approval for each of the lead partners for the amount of £15,000 for the number of areas. So that's Strabane Community Project, Glenelly Development Trust, Newton Stewart Leisure Complex, Rapid, GSAP for Chantallo, and the last one is the lead group is the Community Restorative Justice. So those are all for £15,000. Thank you.
Proposed.
Councillor Barr. Sorry, Lillian,
That's great. You proposing, I'll second it then. No, I was just going to come on just to say, look, happy and content with everything in the report, and I'm sure I'll look forward to seeing the money being spent right across the Sperrin DA and Strabane for the benefit of the community and everyone to enjoy. So thanks very much and happy to second.
Thank you. Councillor Boggs.
It was just a second, Chair, but also just like Councillor Barr said, just to welcome the funding, particularly in Strabane Town. This is the item that I declared an interest under, and I'm sure Councillor Denny would agree that we'll be delighted to see this coming into Holy Cross, particularly after the pandemic. There's a lot of resilience building to be done on our young people, and some of the projects listed for Strabane Town have that very aim at their heart. So just welcome the projects and thank the local growth partnerships and the groups that they've worked with for their innovation and how we're going to use this funding, and I look forward to see it being rolled out.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Any further? Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Just a wee query. It's in regards to the funding. It's grand, but it's maybe something can be looked at there. The 15,000 has been spent in the Vaughan DA, and they have their plan project of supporting community centres. Now, I would have been very much minded of a similar programme in the Derg DA, but we don't necessarily have many community centres. We have a lot of small groups, and a lot of those groups are using various halls of various descriptions, and you know, we're kind of restricted in that. And the Vaughan end, they can provide then £1,250 a piece to community centres to assist them just with their running costs through that money, whereby we're not, a smaller pot of money to the community groups, but we're all restricted because maybe they're working in a church hall or they're working on something else, these groups. And I don't know, is there any way that can be looked at for again? Because, that would have been, I'd be very keen on the like of that into the Derg DA, but we're told, no, you can't use that because that hall or that church hall or whatever is used for religious purposes, therefore it's not allowed, so I don't know, is there any regular in the like that? Because we wouldn't be looking for, with a higher number of smaller groups, and that's evident then even when the like of the micro capital grants go in, we have a serious amount come in from the Derg DA, and it's all small groups, so, and that's maybe a conversation for another day, but it's something to maybe look at. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hussey.
I can empathise with Alderman Kerrigan there, but perhaps I'm not running the time, but perhaps that's something that the local community growth partnership board should be bringing forward as we look at it, because I think a lot of these proposals for projects have actually come from the Community Growth Partnership Board.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. You want to come in there, Barry?
Yeah, to yourself, Chair, I was just going to come into that. The decision-making processes for members in this committee and then full council, but these action plans are all brought forward by each of the local growth partnerships. So the officer team there to provide the secretariat, they've no involvement in the decision-making process.
No other comments? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Item number 12, the revised Good Relations Action Plan 2023 to 2024.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is to seek your approval on the revised action plan based on the 47% funding cut from the Executive Office. Members, you'll be aware that a report was presented at our last committee detailing the correspondence we'd received and reducing our allocation to 53% of the previous grant award. The Executive Office have requested all councils submit then, based on that, a revised budget profile breakdown for this financial year, taking into account the reduction of 226,730. And members, you'll see in section 2.4 within the table in terms of the proposals there. So in terms of key issues, firstly, with regards to the programme, the reduction to budgets presents significant challenges for us as a council to deliver a programme across the city and district. So detailed consideration was given to the key good relations projects that can be taken forward with the greatest impact on participants, and the proposed revised action plan in your Appendix A has been submitted to TEO, and the letter of offer has now been received for this financial year. With regards to the grant aid, council has communicated with all grant aid applicants to provide an update on the current position and inform them that in the current situation, council is unable to commit to making any funding awards until the position from TEO has been clarified. The two highest scoring groups within each of the 7 days in Strabane Town and the Strategic Youth Priority will receive their full grant aid award. If further funding is confirmed from TEO for the programme, priority will be given to funding the remaining grant aid applicants. So, members, in terms of the recommendation that you approve the revised District Council's Good Relations Action Plan for 23-24 in your Appendix A for submission to the Executive Office. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Barry. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Barry, for the report. It's just a question for me at the minute. So the table there that shows some of the programmes that are going to be left out of the funding because of the disappointing 40% cut in the budget. But what I wanted to say was one of them is the burning issues bonfires, which was £8,000, and then the direct participants was around 300. I do understand the fact that the money's been kept where there is a big outreach. But with the developments now this past week or two and the work that Lillian and Sandra and the Bonfire Working Group have been doing, and not to be taken away from any other budget heading, that's not what we want to do, because obviously you have assessed this and this is where the money's needed. But could that be the burning issues heading be re-looked at? It's just to encourage maybe other areas to come on the boat with us with regards to stopping bonfires. And with that money, could we use it to sort of incentivise young people and to come in and do training and development programmes, community development programmes and stuff like that? Just a question. I do not want to be taking any money from any other budget headings because I do know the outstanding work that's being done. But it's just with the progression this week. Is there any way that can be re-looked at, or there can be money coming from any other area? Thank you.
Through yourself, Chair, that particular fund for those members that have previously been on the Bonfire Working Group will understand that has been shrunk significantly in recent years as well. So that £8,000 would have been in place for diversionary activities across all bonfires, right across the council area. So it was never something that the Bonfire Working Group would allocate to one particular bonfire. So you may get an allocation of £1,000 or something like that. So that is something based on the previous proposal that was put in. Our community development team will coordinate that interdepartmental group and meet with the statutory partners, and we will look at can we provide £1,000 to the festivals and events team to roll out, but unfortunately that would have been split among all of the bonfires, and there was minimal enough impact in the last couple of years with that.
Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. Barry, thank you for the report. And as usual, you guys have put such a lot of work in it. And I know we're talking about not taking money from any other budget, but I read the report with a very keen interest. And I note that you have indicated in 4.3 that the reduced budget will have a significant impact on the delivery of a meaningful good relations action plan, and that there was careful consideration was given to which good relation program were deemed deliverables, on which we were and which were not deliverables due to reduced budgets. And I agree on the point that you raised about impact also. And when it comes to the real tangible good relations outcomes, I've looked at this list of programs approved also with a very keen interest. And I am not convinced that the One World Festival will have a significant community impact. And I will explain why. I understand the overall objectives around the festival and the idea of a festival that showcases the diversity of the city, because I think that is the ultimate objective of this. But I am not sure that this is going to happen, really. Having seen the plan that has been put in place, I genuinely think we are using a wrong approach to promote or to showcase diversity within the city. If the idea is around good relations, what we really need to think about is what we mean by this. Are we building community or resorting to tokenism, where minority groups are just coming together to put a showcase for one day event and then that's done? And I know most of the people who may have applied for the tender love performing, and I wouldn't want to take that from them. But this is not about individuals. It is about the whole community embracing culture, celebrating diversity. And if we look at the spirit of Good Relations Week for this year, it is about embracing togetherness for meaningful change. And for me, I look in detail what we means, and I look for keywords. And on this one, it is about meaningful change. So I'm not really convinced that there will be meaningful change achieved by spending £12,000 on a one-off event that, yes, in all good intention, is to bring out diversity, to mainstream racial equality and all that. But can we consider how we can more strategically spread this money in main events, because if it is really about real, genuine integration, this model we are currently using looks like an us and them. We'll give them money, let them do this program. But I'm really looking to a place where we can be showcasing the diversity of our community within mainstreaming all those events. Like, for example, I look at the amazing Halloween festival where every group is welcomed to participate in it. That showcases the diversity of our community. St. Patrick's Day. Can we look at key events? For example, this week itself is Asians Week. We could have highlighted that, and that is the diversity of our city. There's also Pride celebration, which shows the diversity of our city. Groups across every community participate in those events. And I can give you a list of, in terms of minority ethnic people's key dates in the calendar. You have Human Rights Day, you have Africa Day, you have Chinese, Chinese year, you have most of the events that we are all invited, Eid festival, big events that everyone can participate in. So I genuinely feel that this is a lot of money, but to showcase the diversity of this city is very little. So is there room maybe to reallocate it, for example, I saw on the list there is GR Week. I'm not across the details of what GR Week is all about or what is there. There's 11,000 there. Could this be moved to that budget and maybe just have a massive good relations event week that everybody can participate in? That's the spirit of the togetherness that the good relation was talking about, rather than just have really a reductionist approach to diversity. That's what I am thinking. Maybe we need to really rethink on how we are going to showcase our diversity, mainstreaming to bring that togetherness and really move away from the us and them. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barr and Councillor Hutton for your contributions. And I think what this has done is it's raised more questions than there are answers. I know in terms of what Councillor Hutton was saying there around the bonfire fund, and I know, Barry, a number of years ago I floated at the meeting that money wasn't, that the bonfire working group shouldn't become simply a grant making body around some of this stuff, and that if we wanted to have real impact, maybe we should look at that fund as a whole rather than divvying it up where it's not going to have a huge amount of impact in terms of alternative to bonfires. So I think that that's still a conversation that needs to be had, particularly in light of the proposal that we passed earlier today, but also in terms of the One World Festival that Lillian has just raised. I mean, I am aware of it. I have certainly been part of some of the events they have run, and they seem to be excellent events. But I'm not from a minority ethnic community, and I take on board what Lillian is saying in terms of maybe it does have a bit of tokenism around it. I wouldn't claim to be the expert, absolutely not. So I'll take what Lillian is saying. I would suggest maybe we defer this item and we have the opportunity to have further conversations with council officers in relation to some of these items. I understand, Barry, that there has been a lot of work put into this proposal, but I think because we have had a 47% reduction in our money, we need to be more prudent around how we spend it. We need to be looking at best value for money. We need to be looking at impact. And I know that's a lot of what you've done, but I think some of the issues that have been raised here, maybe if we just allow a deferral to full council for further conversations.
Yeah,
I will second that.
You want to come in there, Barry?
Want me to come in, Chair, first? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just I had a thing to regarding this report. Now I've lost all the notes have all been wiped there, but I think it was there £500 in connection with travellers. And when I read that, I found that, it's a very paltry, miserable sort of sum. I wonder, is there an explanation for that? Or thank you.
Through yourself, Chair, there's three different questions. If I start, in terms of Councillor Barr's query, in terms of can monies be moved? Yeah, in terms of within different programme initiatives, if that's something that members wish that we look at, we can do that. In terms of, we would just need to double check, has there been any tendering or procurement or whatever agreements are in place, but I would doubt for that particular one, but we'll double check on that. In terms of Sandra stuff, a no point noted around the bonfire and substantial money. Unfortunately, as members know, the budget has shrank to nearly being non-existent, going back from maybe 60,000 a number of years ago. So there is, Sandra, the Good Relations Working Group of elected reps. That's probably the first protocol, and to go back through this and actually go into detail around the action plan, and then bring it subsequently back into a committee or full council or whatever it might be. But the one thing I would say is the grant aid in particular, grant aid, the grant aid awards, if we do defer it, and groups are waiting then to September and the end of full council if that was the case, but no, full council, yeah. Councillor Donnelly, in terms of your query, just in terms of the budget was cut, so there was a top selection of the budget across all the programmes. Really, that's so in terms of the Travellers Initiative, there wasn't a huge budget allocated in the first instance, and there's a number of targets and objectives. So it was based on trying to ensure that there was some funding to all those groups out there, but minimal that it might be, but it just wouldn't have made sense to cut it completely. But that's where we were with the 47% cut.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Just very briefly, thanks for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks for the report. I want to look at one of them there, and it's actually the one that seems to have the least number of participants. It's the Civic Leadership Programme, and declaring it just because I have been involved in that in the past, whereby leaders from right across the community, cross-community, and members of council, cross-party, have been involved in that programme in the past. And it's not just 18 people who are involved in that. It's 18 leaders, civic leaders, and the impact that they bring from that programme out to the communities that they are leaders within cannot be underestimated. As I say, I know you have 18 people there. I presume this came about through officer discussion and recommendations, etc. And it is per capita, a large input. I would like to think the major element of that actually is the field trip, if you want to call it that, whereby in the past it's gone to Auschwitz, and the last civic leadership program went to Srebrenica. That is a major financial element in it. But I would like to think that for outside of those visitations, there is still a role for a civic leadership program. And the major element of cash input, financial resources, goes on, going away. But I'd like to think that it could be re-looked at with regard to what can be done at home when it's brought back to full council for further consideration. Thanks for the opportunity, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Barr.
It was just a question really following what Councillor Duffy has said about deferring, because I wanted to second that. But you also mentioned about the grant aid. Is it possible to maybe approve the report with grant aid going ahead that does not have any questions, and then we defer the rest of the items that we are questioning, or it has to be the whole group, the whole report?
No, through yourself, Chair, you can make a decision. But if Sandra has suggested, if it's going to full council, that would give the opportunity of a grant aid working group that elected reps all parties sit on. So that would give the opportunity, because there's quite a bit of discussion has been ongoing on what programmes to cut. But ultimately, the budget has been almost halved. So we have to make some tough decisions around what we previously funded compared to this year. So either can be done, Councillor Barr, but ultimately, if it's approved at full council, then that will solve that issue anyway. Just through the chair, we'd ensure next week that it's that the meeting takes place with elected reps.
And members, can we just ask for your cooperation, because obviously full council is Wednesday, so we'll try and get you the invitation before the end of tonight so that you can agree your representatives if your nominated party member is not there.
Alderman Kerr, were you looking on?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Barry, for the update on this as well. I just want to point out two things on it. First of all, on the programmes itself, tackling racism and sectarianism, £5,000, zero budget this time, and only 70 participants. Well, I can name 3 sectarian incidents in the past couple of months, one as recent as just the other night in Claudy, and I'm sure there's plenty of councillors in this chamber who could do the same. Now, the point is, that's been cut. The Belfast Agreement has never dealt with sectarianism, and it's a blight on our community, both communities, all the communities, and they have only 70 people listed to participate in this. I don't mean maybe it was what was participated in it before. I think to cut that from the budget is a severe, it's just wrong. you know, that should be one of the first things on it. We need to, be, talking to young people and, basically explaining that this is wrong. But I think that's a major thing that could be looked at there. The grant aid thing, I'm happy enough with it because I know that they're working with a budget and it's trying to move it forward quickly, because there's a lot of these groups who are relying on that money to run summer schemes and things like that there. But what I wanted to ask them was, it says the top 2 ranked, but in a few of them, there is maybe the 2nd and 3rd ranked are on actually exactly the same score. Will 2nd and 3rd in that case be given the grant, or will it only go to 2nd? Because you've maybe 2 there that are on 85% both, and they're in 2nd and 3rd place. Thanks, Chair. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, finished, Alderman?
Yeah.
Through yourself, Chair. I think back to the previous point, if we have a working group of elected reps, all of this can be debated, because we'll have to make the decisions based on almost a 50% budget cut. So there are certain programme areas are going to be cut substantially or left out. So essentially, if we try and get the meeting for Monday and elected reps with a good relations team and the officers, we will hopefully come to some sort of conclusion on it and get it in to full council for next week.
Okay, just I want to make a comment on Alderman Guy. I agree regarding the sectarianism. Sectarianism, like racism, it's a cancer. Society, it can't be defended. He asked a question, said never been dealt with by the Good Friday Agreement. The Good Friday Agreement hasn't dealt with a lot of stuff, and in my view, it has created a sectarian institution, an institution that relies on sectarianism. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that the Belfast Agreement, or Good Friday Agreement, whatever you want to call it, has been a letdown regarding sectarianism. So this item is being deferred then the full council. Okay, moving swiftly on. Item number 13, Northern Ireland Policing Board Engagement Strategy 2023 to 2025. Very difficult to say.
Thanks, Chair. Through yourself, Chair. Members will be short with us. This is just to provide you with the draft response to the Northern Ireland Policing Board's Engagement Strategy 23-25, and you'll see it in your appendices. I'm happy to take any comments on board.
Councillor Boggs.
Gurmogga, Chair, and just on behalf of Sinn Féin, we're happy to note the report and the response to the consultation, and also just happy to propose it as well. And I note that in the report it has mentioned that council believes the PCSPs is the best place for that engagement at a local level. I would agree. So very briefly, just happy to support and propose.
That's seconded by Councillor McDade. Any other comments? I have a couple of comments to make. You'll not be surprised to know. Engagement. Just to quote some of the stuff that's in this it's about confidence in policing. Talks about working within existing accountability and advocacy structures, widespread local community structures. It talks about human rights reports and meaningful widespread local community engagement and support. I don't see it, and a lot of people that I would represent do not see that. It also talks about support, building trust and confidence in policing, and highlighting the work of PSNI within public and local communities. What the PSNI to a lot of people in our community is seen as an armed militia that's used to harass and bully the local community. It is no stranger to assaulting. Women and children are not immune, and children with additional needs. It is constantly engaging in against a significant section of the community. It has made and is making malicious reports to social services, which are destroying families. It has got disabled pensioners removed their bank accounts removed without it has had people being rejected by insurance companies, is widely involved in stop and searches, strip searching children. It has a child informer recruitment policy, and there is a lot of widespread resentment in nationalist community. It is armed with a vast array of draconian powers, which they widely abuse and use, and this is used as a conveyor belt into an unjust British judicial system that uses non-jury dip black courts, and into an unreformed and cruel and vindictive British penal system in the 6 counties. This has been used most recently on 3 dairymen, Liam O'Donnell, Tiernan McFadden and Keelan Brogan, who were victims of this force constantly before these charges. They've been charged by a regime that doesn't require evidence of any significance and is in effect, it's internment by remand. The British Police Force and its penal system has been constantly criticised by human rights groups. There's been a number this year alone, and both the PCSP, in my opinion, and the Policing Board, and in many other people's eyes, are fake accountability bodies and a vain attempt to give British policing a veneer of respectability, and both of them have failed miserably. Thank you. Item number 14, Community Centre Venue Fund 2023 to 2024 and Advice Services Programme 2023 to 2024 funding extension. Barry again.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this is to seek your approval around the Community Centre Venue Fund, the Advice Service Provision, Tribunal and Appeals Programme, and our Welfare Mitigations Advice Programme, based on the letter of offer we received from DFC. So, members, on the 7th of July, Council received a letter of variance in your appendices from DFC outlining the 23-24 budget allocation to Council will be based on the 22-23 allocation, which was very welcome based on previous cuts we'd had from other funders. The letter of variance provides comfort and commitment to Council will now be in a position to extend funding for the Community Centre Venue Fund up until the end of March 24. And members will be aware that the groups in receipt of this were previously approved at June Health and Community Committee. The total budget, as members will be aware, is 195,000 for this financial year. 120,000 of that is for the rural area and 75,000 for the urban area. Members will also be aware that approval was granted at June Health and Community Committee to award funding to our 3 advice providers up until the 30th September 23. Now, following receipt of this letter of variance, we're in a position to extend that funding up to the end of March 24. So, in terms of the key issues, members, groups in receipt of the venue funding received a letter of offer and revised SLA for a period up to the end of September. That can now be extended to the end of financial year. 17 community groups will receive funding through this Tier 1. 10 rural groups will receive funding on Tier 2, 7 urban groups. 19 applications are held on a reserve list should any future or further funding be made available. The letter of variance received from DFC also provides Council confirmation there's enough budget for our advice providers. And again, those letters of offer up to the 30th September with the advice providers. And this now puts us in a position to extend that to the end of March 2024. And we have an advice panel tomorrow to look at the formula around that, members. In terms of the advice service funding allocation to the existing 3 providers, as members will be aware, it's based on a formula including the number of contacts that each provider has completed. Confirmation from DFC allows us to now work on a formula and get approval to the end of March, as I previously highlighted. Once a specific allocation is agreed for each of the 3 providers, each provider will be issued with letters of offer to extend the advice provision commissioning agreement from the 1st of October 23 up to the end of March 24. Confirmation is also in place for funding of the Tribunal's Appeal Programme and the Welfare Reform Mitigation Programme to our 3 providers as well, and that's also included in the letter of variance. So in terms of the recommendations, members, in 5.1, that the 17 groups outlined in Appendix B, approval to fund those through the Community Venue Fund, that members approve the award of funding to the 3 existing advice providers, Advice Northwest Dove House and the Resource Centre for the period of 1st of October to the end of March 24. And the members approve the extension of the Tribunal's Appeals Programme from the 1st of July this year to the 31st of March, for the 3 existing advice providers. And finally, that members approve the extension of the Welfare Reform Mitigation Advice funding from the 1st of July this year to the 31st of March 24, again to our 3 existing advice providers. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Barry. Councillor Duffy, you looking to come in here? Online?
Chair. Myself, Chair, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Sinn Féin is content they support this this report, and it's good to see that the especially for these community organisations and welfare advice services where cuts are coming left, right, and centre, the council has actually now extended it to suppose the end of the tax year. So that is very welcome. So yeah, we're content and happy to propose if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. No. Councillor Barr, Jason.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me on. Just to say, happy to second the proposal, but it's just, it has to be frustrating for these groups where they're currently working on a 3-month basis every time, so they don't know after 3 months is their job safe. Is it not safe? Will the funding continue? Will it not continue? So, please God, after next March, maybe we might have, fingers crossed, a government up and running where these funding can hopefully be extended for a longer period of time so people have sustainability. So happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Alderman Hussey.
By the way, you asked the 12-year-old boy if he'll be up and going. Chair, it's just a point of information. I note one of the names of one of the clubs or on the centre, John Mitchell. Is that the supporter of the slave trade, John Mitchell?
Who's that question to, Alderman Hussey? I have no notes in front of me. I've lost all of Okay, any other speakers? Okay, item number 15, Boxing Hub and Sports Hall provision at Melvin Sports Complex.
Thanks again, Chair. Members, the purpose is to update you in relation to the multi-facility fund at Melvin Sports Complex, and that you consider approval of the relevant additional budget to ensure the successful completion of the project. Members, you'll be aware that we had previously as a council approved 600,000 towards this project, and that was our match funding contribution, and Sport NI had provided a letter of offer of £1 million towards the overall project cost of 1.6 million in March 21. Members, the ongoing effects of COVID, Brexit, inflation and global economic climate have impacted upon the project costs, which now exceed the available budget funding. And for those members that will be well aware that traffic management issues remain an ongoing issue at Melvin site, and any development must include necessary parking arrangements and upgrades in order to satisfy planning and users' issues at that site. So the concept design of the new facility offers the option of developing a total of 72 new parking bays, which would address the majority of traffic management issues for the entire site. Sport and I are aware of the ongoing issues and the rising cost of the project, and you'll see in 3.4 the latest projections members are £3.232 million. Sport and I have indicated they may be willing to increase their funding offer to cover 50% of the overall project costs. They've requested that we proceed to RIBS Stage 4 with our design team and complete the pre-tender estimate process in order to provide the most up-to-date, reliable and accurate costs that Sport NI can base their updated letter of offer on. And as I've highlighted, members, we previously had a budget as a council of 600,000 towards this. The RIBS Stage 4 ICT fees are 31,500. They have been confirmed and we will be covered within our contribution. The Sport NI will provide an updated funding offer based on 50% match funding once the pre-tender estimate process is undertaken. So in terms of recommendations, members, you note the increased costs and permit the project to progress to RIBA Stage 4. and that members consider approval of the relevant additional budget to ensure the successful completion of the project. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bob Boggs.
Dermot Chair, and can I say I'm delighted on behalf of Sinn Féin to propose that we accept both recommendations within the report. Karen will know I've been on about this already as at an early stage of this council, and I know I heard my predecessor Michaela Boyle worked on this issue, so it's brilliant to see that Sport NI have come forward and recognised, as Barry says, the challenges that are faced, because for a lot of people, particularly those who are looking forward to using this new facility whenever it is built, they had seen this project in a state of limbo, and that they didn't know if it was going to progress for all the reasons that we've talked about in terms of budgets and money and all the rest. So it's brilliant to see it. It's also great that we're recognising the issue that we currently have in Melvin. It's been brilliant over the last couple of days whenever I've been sitting in our office on the Melvin Road, the amount of people, the vast numbers that have been coming to use Melvin over the last couple of days for the Foyle Cup, particularly in the arena site and in Melvin Sports Complex itself. But obviously parking is a long-standing issue, and it's good to see that through this we're kind of sorting out two problems. We're pleasing the people who want to see this new facility, but we're also sorting out the issue, which I see Councillor Barnard has said we're well aware of. Whenever you go to use it, there just isn't enough parking. So delighted to be able to see this moving forward today, and as I say, happy to propose that both recommendations on the paper. Very much, Chair.
Councillor Barr.
Just to be associated with everything that Councillor Bowes just had to say, totally agree with everything he's just had to say, and we're happy to second the report.
Alderman Hussey.
Not a member committee, but aware of this request and indeed demand for the facility for some considerable years, and some people, prominent people in Strabane, who have worked tirelessly to achieve this, and it's to be welcomed. Just one query: the facility and the car parking, the 72 car parking spaces, does not take away from any of the current sports facility provision in the area. Is that correct?
Through yourself, Chair, that's correct, yeah.
Any further comments or questions? Okay. Item number 16, establishment of a working group to consider the implications arising from council motions C3/20, C387/22, and C197/23. Karen and Barry is going to do this.
Thanks, Chair. So members, the purpose is to establish a working group and agree nominations to the same, and you'll see in section 2 where council has previously resolved a number of motions. I'm not going to read them out, members, but just in terms of the key issues, just to highlight, the Audit Commission guidelines identify the public service subsidy should be based on the ability of the individual to pay rather than their status, and discounted usage based on any age may be considered discriminatory, since it assumes that the individual is financially disadvantaged, which is often not the case. So members, further to the motions in section 2, there's been an increase in the queries relating to free of use charge and concessions for a range of groups and organisations. So members are asked to note the scope of the motions. The first one, in section 3.3, that council explores free admittance to council leisure facilities to all those over the age of 65. Second, that council explores free admittance to council leisure facilities to all those over 75. And thirdly, that council request to introduce all-inclusive, family-friendly swimming lessons. In addition, there have been requests from other interest groups, including carers, in relation to free of charge use for access to leisure facilities and community and sporting events. So members, in line with council's equality scheme, the motions will be subject to the screening process, which identified that this policy may impact on a number of Section 75 groupings, albeit to varying degrees. The groups potentially are likely to be identified as age, gender, people without a disability, and people without dependents. The policy does not require further detailed assessment in terms of climate change and adaptation, rural need, or data protection. So members, there may be a financial impact on leisure services due to free of charge use being permitted. The pricing policy and schedule of charges outlines current discounts available to the following groups already. There's current free of use charge for under 5s swimming and over 65 swimming and health suite. economically disadvantaged disabled users and over 65s, full-time students and off-peak usage, and all activities excluding fitness classes are discounted at 25% off peak rate. So the recommendation is to establish a working group and agree nominations the same to consider the implications of these motions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Thanks, Chair. We welcome progress on this matter to establish a working group. I think any initiative that increases participation in physical activity is going to be extremely beneficial, and I think it also ties in with item 22 on our agenda today and the draft Be Active strategy. I would suggest that maybe in terms of nominations that we do that at full council.
Okay, Councillor Devine. Councillor Barr.
We'll second that, and we also welcome the report, and thank you. We'll nominate at a full council.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Chair, I'm happy to nominate myself now.
Councillor Guy is nominated. Okay, thank you. No declarations of interest. We're all young and fit, and we move on. Item number 17. Neighbourhood Renewal Active Citizenship Strabane NR Technical Support Funding Award update.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this is to update you on our Neighbourhood Renewal Active Citizenship through Support Funding for 23-24 financial year, to seek your approval to issue a letter of offer and service level agreements to the nominated lead groups in each of the 5 urban DAs. And members, you'll see within section 2.4 who those groups will be: St Mary's Youth Club, Shantallow Community Residents Association, Ballymacrory and Hazelbank Community Partnership, Waterside Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership and Strabane Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership. And finally, members, to update you on the funding award to provide a technical assistance programme to Strabane Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership. So members have highlighted with regards to the active citizenship, you'll see in section 2.2 with programme costs of over 39,500 and we've training costs of £10,000. Those are accredited coach education programmes that we deliver through our council sports development team. And you'll see I've already mentioned the groups that we would enter into an SLA with. So in terms of financial, members, this is 100% funded through the Department for Community, so there's no additional cost to council. And with regards to the Strabane Neighbourhood Renewal Technical Assistance, council provides support of £43,615 to match fund AFC's funding award. And so that is covered within the rates budget. So the recommendations, members, is that you approve the letters of offer, including the SLAs to the groups mentioned. Thank you.
Barry, Councillor Catherine McDade. Okay, Councillor Jason Barr.
Just happy to note the report and happy for everything else and happy to propose. Chair, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barr. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's my usual question. It's a neighbourhood renewal programme, which is very welcome. Will there be a counterbalance programme for the rural DEAs?
Through yourself, Chair, we had previous queries into the DFC. It's an urban-based neighbourhood renewal programme, so there's no funding. They've said there is no funding for any of the rural areas. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Barry.
Answer as expected.
Councillor Aisling Hutton.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the report, Barry. We are happy to second the proposal to issue the letters of offer for the active citizenship. I declared an interest at the start. It's just to comment on the very good work that does, encouraging people to be physically active and letting community organisations have the chance for that hard to reach category of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. No other comments or questions? And folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay. Open for information, items number 18 to 28. We're going to take them on block. If anybody. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Chair. Just in relation to item 20, I just want to welcome the response from the Council to the consultation. I think social participation is really crucial for health and well-being for all of us and allowing us to be involved in our societies. And I think access to transport facilitates that. So I think that response is really crucial. Again, just in rural areas, transport, again, is vital to keep people connected and keep people a part of their communities. Transport is very limited, and I think we need to make it accessible and have as many people as possible access it. Community transport is essential in rural areas for people to get to appointments and shopping and access to essential services. So I really welcome the response.
I got Councillor Devine. Anyone else? Okay, we move on to confidential. If we can get a proposer and a seconder to go into confidential. Proposed by Councillor Barr and second by Councillor Deeney, was it? Okay, thank you.